After the long night ended, the world did not return to what it once was. It could not. Because what the darkness had taken was not only lives. It had taken memory itself. Entire generations were lost. Stories were broken. Names were forgotten before they could be spoken again. And in the silence that followed, humanity did not rebuild its past. It replaced it. This was the Age of Heroes. A time not defined by certainty, but by legend. A time when truth and myth became indistinguishable. There were no mesters then, no written histories, no records carved into stone with careful precision. Only voices, and voices change. A story told once becomes a story told differently. A man remembered becomes a man reshaped. And so the Age of Heroes was never preserved. It was interpreted. We often begin this age with a single name: Bran the Builder, the man who raised the wall, the man who built Winterfell, the man whose legacy still shapes the North. But to focus only on Bran is to misunderstand the age entirely, because Bran was not unique. He was not alone. He was simply the one whose name survived the longest. Across Westeros in the years after the long night, something extraordinary was happening. The world was being rebuilt, not by kings, not by armies, but by figures who seemed larger than the world itself. Men who built what should not be built. Men who defied what should not be defied. Men who, even now, do not feel entirely human. In the West, there was a man known as Lann the Clever, not a warrior, not a conqueror, a trickster. A man who did not take Casterly Rock through strength, but through mind. It is said he entered the stronghold without being seen, that he moved through its halls like a whisper. Voices echoed in the dark. Footsteps were heard where no one stood. Lords began to fear their own home. Some say he drove them mad. Others say he convinced them the castle was haunted. But in the end, they fled. And the rock, one of the greatest fortresses in Westeros, fell. Without a battle. From that moment, the Lannisters were born, not through conquest, but through deception. Far to the south, where the sea meets the land with endless fury, another legend took shape. Durran Godsgrief, a man who dared something no one else would. He loved a god, or perhaps a goddess loved him. But such unions are not meant to last. The gods, it is said, grew furious, and so they sent storms. Not once, not twice, but again and again. Each time Durran built a castle, the storms came. Walls shattered, towers collapsed, everything reduced to ruin. And yet, he built again, stone upon stone, failure upon failure, until finally a fortress stood that could not be broken. Storm's End. A castle that even now resists the fury of the sea. A castle that feels less like a building and more like a victory. Not over men, but over gods. And in the fertile lands of the Reach, there walked a figure, even stranger, Garth Greenhand. A man, they say, who did not conquer, who did not destroy, but created. Where he stepped, life followed, grass grew, trees flourished. Fields became rich and endless. Some say he planted the first seeds. Others say the land itself answered him, that he was not a farmer, but something older, something tied to the very nature of the world. From him came the great houses of the Reach, and with them, the abundance that feeds Westeros to this day. These stories are different places, different people, different purposes. And yet, they feel the same. A builder in the north, a trickster in the west, a defier of gods in the south, a bringer of life in the Reach. Each one shaping the world, each one remembered not as a man, but as something greater. And that raises a question, one that cannot be ignored. Were these truly different people? Or are they echoes of the same idea? Because the Age of Heroes does not behave like history. It behaves like memory, and memory does not preserve truth. It reshapes it. The same patterns appear again and again. Impossible constructions, unbreakable castles, men who achieve what should not be possible, different names, but the same acts. It is possible that these heroes were never meant to be separate, that Bran the Builder, Lann the Clever, Durran, Godsgrief, and Garth Greenhand are not four individuals, but four reflections. Reflections of a world trying to understand itself after catastrophe, a world that had faced extinction and survived, because after the long night, survival was everything. Truth did not matter, accuracy did not matter, only survival. And in that survival, stories became necessary, not as records, but as tools. They gave people something to hold on to, something to believe in, a man who could build walls that never fall, a man who could take a fortress without an army, a man who could stand against the gods, a man who could make the land itself come alive. These are not just stories, they are answers. Answers to fear, answers to loss, answers to a world that no longer made sense. Because when everything is taken from you, you do not rebuild reality, you rebuild meaning. And so the Age of Heroes was not just a time of great figures. It was a time when greatness was needed, whether it truly existed or not. Even now, their presence can still be felt, not in words, but in stone. The wall still stands, a structure so vast, so impossibly precise, that even now, its creation remains a mystery. Winterfell still stands, ancient, enduring, as if it was never meant to fall. Storm's End still stands, defiant, unmoved by storms that have broken lesser castles without effort. And the lands of the Reach still flourish, green, endless, alive. These things are real, they can be seen, they can be touched, but the stories behind them cannot. And that is where the Age of Heroes truly lives, not in truth, but in the space between truth and legend. Because in Westeros, history does not survive, it fades, it fractures, it disappears. But legends remain. They are passed from voice to voice, changed, reshaped, retold, until what began as a memory becomes something else entirely, something greater, something eternal. So whether these heroes were real men or something more may no longer matter, because their impact remains the same. The world they are said to have shaped still exists, and as long as it does, their stories will never truly die. Because in the end, Westeros does not remember what happened. It remembers what it needed to believe. And in that belief, the Age of Heroes never ended. But there is something else we must consider. If these figures were only legends, then how do we explain what they left behind? Because the structures of Westeros are not symbolic. They are real. The wall is not a story. It exists. A structure so vast, so impossibly precise, that even now, no one truly understands how it was built. And yet, it stands. Winterfell still stands, not as a ruin, not as a memory, but as a living fortress, ancient, unbroken, as if it was never meant to fall. Storm's End still stands, facing the sea, unchanged, storm after storm, century after century, and still, it does not yield. These are not myths, these are facts, stone, structure, endurance. So perhaps the question is not whether these heroes existed, but whether something like them had to exist. Because a world recovering from darkness does not rebuild itself by accident. It requires knowledge, skill, understanding beyond what we would expect from survivors of catastrophe. And that leads to something far more unsettling. What if these figures were not just men, but inheritors of something older? Something that existed before the long night. Something that was almost lost, but not entirely, because the children of the forest were still there, watching, remembering, and perhaps guiding. It is possible that the Age of Heroes was not a beginning, but a continuation, a final echo of a much older world. And if that is true, then the legends we speak of are not exaggerations. They are fragments of a truth that has been broken apart by time, a truth that still exists, hidden beneath story. And that is what makes the Age of Heroes so dangerous, because it is not just a tale of the past. It is a reminder that the world of Westeros was once capable of far more than it is today, and perhaps it could be again.